Jesus is all about. We're just connected with one another. Jesus Christ.
7 7/8. I could name if you needed this.
Ladies and gentlemen, owner and managing general partner of the Los Angeles Raiders, Mr. Al Davis.
To stand here before you is kind of emotional because I announced the retirement of Tom Flores from the head coaching position of the Los Angeles Raiders. I'd like to go up and use the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. The Oakland and now Los Angeles Raiders have had the greatest players, the greatest coaches, the greatest plays, and performed in the greatest games in the annals of sports history. During these 3 decades, the Raiders have had the best record in professional sports. Tom Flores was one of those great players. Tom Flores was one of those great assistant coaches, and certainly Tom Flores ranks as one of pro football's great coaches. During his tenure, Tom was winner of 2 world championships. During his 9 years as head coach of the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders, Tom had an outstanding league record of 83-53 since taking over from John Madden as head coach of the Raiders on February 9th, 1979, and many of you were there on that particular day. In addition, Tom Flores had an A3-0 mark in postseason games, including dominating victories in 1980 in the Super Bowl over the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course, the great victory in Tampa over the Washington Redskins. Those are the only 2 Super Bowl victories by an AFC team in the 1980s. In fact, since 1969, no original AFC team has ever won a Super Bowl. When Tom won his first world championship in 1980, in just his 2nd season as head coach, it made Tom Flores at that time the only person in NFL history to win a Super Bowl as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach. And he did it through 3 decades. I could go on and talk about the great records of Tom Flores, but those are only records. This is a sad moment and a happy moment for me personally, and certainly for the Los Angeles Raiders. I'd like to take you back a few years. I'd like to take you back to 1963 and tell you why. I came to Oakland in 1963 as the head coach and general manager, dedicated to building the finest organization in professional sports. That was my dream since I was a young boy, that someday I would have the opportunity to build an organization in pro sports that would be imitated, feared, and respected by all. But to do it, we needed great people in all phases of the organization, and especially great players. And the Raiders were fortunate, and I was fortunate, because the quarterback in 1963 was Tom Flores, who was trying to make a great comeback from an illness, and who did make a great comeback. And if this sounds like an enshrinement in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, it is not now, but it may well be someday. Tom Flores has a special place in the hearts of the Raider organization, and especially his teammates and the players he coached, who wore and wear the famed silver and black. He wore those colors with pride, with poise, and with class. He was and is a star among stars. His loyalty, devotion, and dedication still reap the rewards of victory. Tom was an organization man. He played football and coached for the organization. He wanted to win for the organization. And that is one reason when the great John Madden retired in 1979, the Raiders asked Tom to wear the coach's hat. And at that time when we talked, and as we talked through the years, I told him that no one can do it for more than 10 years. And that no matter what would occur beginning in 1979, our friendship would endure. And I thank God that for over 25 years our friendship has endured, and I'm sure will continue to. No one asked Tom Flores to retire. No one asked Tom Flores to retire. This is what he wanted to do. It was his decision, and he will tell you why. While we tentatively made the decision last week, he confirmed it this Monday morning. And again, I thank the guy upstairs because Tom is in excellent health, and he's very solvent, and he has wonderful goals. As I stand here today, I also stand here with many of our great players who people idolize around the country and in whose glory we all share. I name the players to you. Jim Plunkett, who was Tom's first Super Bowl quarterback in 1980, came to us and led us down a stretch drive that no one will ever forget, very reminiscent of this year's drive to the Super Bowl. The great Jim Plunkett, who's won 2 Super Bowls as a quarterback for the Raiders. Rod Martin, our team captain presently, who played in the Super Bowl in 1980 and I think had a feat that will long be remembered, 3 interceptions. I go on, and I see seated there the great Lyle Alzado, who came to us in 1982. And there's no question about it, he brought to us a tenacity and a toughness that we all greatly like and admire. Another one who played for Tom Flores. Seated over there is perhaps one of the greatest money players of his time, greatest big game players of his time, the great Clifford Branch, who played in the Super Bowl as a starter in 1976, 1980, 1983, and if you check the record books, he's a big money player in all those games. He was just a 4th-round draft choice in the early years of 70, just about when Tom Flores came to us as an assistant coach from the University of Colorado. Howie Long, 1981 out of Villanova, one of the great players of the game today. And it continues on and on. Of course, you see, and for a light moment, for a while, Gene Upshaw said maybe we ought to announce that we have a new collective bargaining agreement between the Raiders and the Players Association. One of the greatest players who's ever lived. He's the only player in National Football League history who started in 3 decades in the Super Bowl, 1976, 1967, and certainly 1980 at the left guard position. I think he's the only professional football player who's played the guard position who's in the Hall of Fame. And there, the indestructible one, 00, kind of personifies the Raiders. Jim Otto, he was an original. He's in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Certainly exemplifies everything about what we talk about, pride and poise, submission of ego, and all the great things that go with Raider history. Did anyone?
Marcus.
Well, I don't even have to name the next guy. He just walks in the room, the famous number 32, tremendous player. I know Tom Flores loves him like a son. Number 32, Marcus Allen, who exemplifies, we hope, the great traditions of the Raiders. When I see him, all these players, it brings back a resolution and a realization of the debt we owe to them. And it's a firm resolution that we'll never forget that debt. Publicly, I want to thank Barbara Flores for her support and character that helped the growth of this organization. Tom will continue to serve the Raiders as an advisor, special projects, and will always be a part of our organization. I say that this is truly an emotional experience because while I know a great career is ending, I knew there is a great new beginning for Tom. And with God's will and our help and our friendship and his great attributes, I'm sure his future will be as splendid and as magnificent as in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Tom Flores.
Those are Al's, I think. Thank you. Thank you, Al. And, God, a lot of people out here. I'm going to reflect a little bit on my association with the Raiders and you know, kind of go back down memory lane, because there have been so many great memories for me as a player, as an assistant coach, as a head coach, and as a friend and dedicated Raider for many, many years. I started out in 1960, and in those days, this was a brand new league, the American Football League, and we had our training camp in Santa Cruz, and there were about 11, 12 quarterbacks fighting for two positions. There was a skinny center that was about 218 pounds at the time, and skinny quarterback at the time that we had fewer wrinkles and more hair. Jim Otto and I go back to a long time. I was actually the first guy to ever put my hands on Jim's ass and say hut in pro football. So we've been very close. But through the years, when we started, the AFL was a dream. It was a dream of a new league, new beginnings, second chances for many of us. And I was very fortunate that I survived and persevered through the 10-year existence of the American Football League. Went into coaching in 1971 and then in 1972 with the Raiders as an assistant coach. So I have been with the club 23 of my 28 years in professional football, and I've been with Al 20 of those years, and for that I thank him, because they've been 20 great years for me, and I will cherish his friendship a long time, because I appreciate the opportunity that he gave me as his quarterback, the opportunity that John Madden gave me as an assistant coach working with Al and for Al, and then also the opportunity, obviously, as being head coach in 1979. 1979, when I was given the job as the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, we talked many times before the decision was made, and when the decision was made, it was, as Al had mentioned, a 10-year commitment, at least a 10-year commitment. At that time, obviously, the goals of any young coach in professional football, the goal is to be the very best, to be a world champion. I'd been very fortunate because I'd experienced it twice before, but never as a head coach, and I'd never been a head coach. So the experience was great, and to be a head coach with the team that I loved the most, the Raiders, was double. It was doubly exciting and a tremendous challenge for me. But that time, I did make a 10-year commitment with Al. We discussed through the years, as we always do at the end of the season. We always reflect and go over the season, go over the future. And even last year at this time, I sat down and discussed the future with Al and my plans, my goals. And at that time, I had accomplished several of my goals. Obviously, winning the Super Bowl twice as a head coach has been and was very rewarding. But also, there was a chance of that 100 games in 10 years, which hasn't been accomplished too many times. And I had a chance for it. Because of the turn of events this past season, it's not there anymore. The 100 games just isn't possible. So because of that, I started talking, and we started talking, and I think the timing is right for me to go about some other challenges in life. the timing is right for the Raiders to go about what they do best, what we do best, and that's win football games. But it's time for me to step aside because I just feel that way. I'm not burnt out. I'm tired. I am tired because it is a very, very strenuous position. It's very draining on you emotionally, physically, mentally. It's all consuming, and I think it's time to do something else, which is go on to some business, to get away from it for a while. Although I will never be away from the Raiders. I will still be a consultant or there if they ever need me for special projects, etc. Through the years, I've had the experience of playing with some great players. Jim Otto, as I mentioned. I've coached some great players. Some of them which are here today. I see Todd Christensen at the back of the room. I thank him for coming because he is truly a great player. Marcus Allen, Howie, present-day players. I remember the day that Al Zato came to my office in Santa Rosa and we discussed he wanted to retire because he just didn't feel that he was contributing. And I said, you let us make that decision. And that was in '82. And then in '83, I remember walking down the sideline in Tampa and looking over and seeing the tears in this guy's eyes because he was finally a world champion. So that's one of the memories that will always be with me forever. I could go on and on. Gene Upshaw never being quiet in the huddle. And when he came over today, he said, well, I thought maybe I'd throw my name in the hat for your replacement because they're getting ready to kick me out over there. But I knew that he was kidding because he has a tremendous challenge and has always been a good friend. Plus, he wants to be invited to my golf tournament, so I guess that's one of the reasons. But I really thank all these players for being here today. Rod Martin, Clifford Branch was a rookie. My first year with the Raiders, and we spent a lot of time because I was his coach in those years, and we've been through some great times. So, you look back and you could go on at some of the players, but that would be a little too much, and I'm sure that I would miss somebody, and I wouldn't want to miss all of them. The new challenges, I don't know what some of them are. I do have some business ventures, but I don't know what the challenges are going to be. But I'm ready to face them, and I'm ready to accept them. And when we discussed this, I made the decision over the weekend. I talked to Al Monday morning, and we decided let's do it, and we wanted to make it a happy occasion because it is. I'm not, it's not like I'm going off to Siberia or something. I'm just moving over and letting somebody else wear the hat and wear the hat on to greater things. I want to thank you, members of the media and the press, for all the respect that you've given me throughout my career. I know that we always haven't been on the same page, but we never are in this relationship, but you've always been fair to me in most cases, and I, in turn, have always been honest with you in most cases. My days as a Raider are not ending. I'm just moving over a little bit, that's all. And I'm sure at this time, if you'd like to throw some questions, but I think I'll just go sit down next to Al rather than stand up here and field any questions, because some of them might be directed to Al Davis. So once again, thanks for coming. All the members of the Raider organization that are here today that I don't personally get a chance to thank. My lovely wife. Yes.
Was there any discussion of taking another job in the Raider organization, day-to-day job?
No, the only thing that we discussed was my position as head coach, and then Al, we've discussed being a consultant or special projects in the future. Yes.
Tom, would you ever consider coaching again anywhere else?
I don't at this time. No. Right now, no, I don't think so. I've been a Raider so long, you know, my coaching career has ended.
Mr. Davis, could you please outline what kind of procedures you follow to find a new head coach? What kind of timetables you have for when you'd like to have a new person on board?
Yes, ma'am. I would hope that the Raiders would have a new head coach by the league meetings in Phoenix in March. Other than that, I haven't given it much thought. I'm not prepared to discuss it. I think the emphasis should be on the happy occasion, the greatness of Tom Flores, and the legacy he leaves to all those who are going to come after him. And the last time when Tom took the job in 1979, February, I think it took about a month. I think John retired sometime in early January, and then Tom was made the head coach. It was about a month. I don't want to take a consistent approach. I'd rather be right and do it the way we do it. It's a very, very big, a very tough decision.
Tom, the subject of your future came up several times late in the season when there was a lot of speculation about what might happen. You never indicated anything about retirement. What made the difference?
Well, the way that the question was always presented was as if, you know, the decision was not going to be mine. I needed time to reflect, and as I said, when we went into this, when I became the head coach, it was for a 10-year period, and last year, Al and I talked about the future, but at that time, the 100 games was a possibility. After the season's over, when you have time to rest a little bit, your mind clears a little bit, at that point, then I decided that maybe we should talk about it some more, and then we discussed the possibilities, and then made the decision over the weekend.
Tom, the day after
But-
the season ended, you said, I believe, I think my record speaks for itself.
Correct.
Raider all my life. It sounded like the words you might be contemplating stepping in.
No, I didn't, but at that time, you know, as I said, the way the question was presented, it was as if, you know, the decision wouldn't be mine. At that time, I was the head coach, and my plans were to be the head coach, but I needed some time to reflect. That was the day after a disappointing loss and a disappointing season for all of us.
Tom, have you contemplated the last season? Maybe you were thinking about
19, you mean the year before? I was tired at that time, and I didn't contemplate retiring then. We discussed the future. And I was, as I always am after a season, even when we've won the Super Bowl, exhausted. And you need some time to reflect and place your priorities down and go on from there. But we talked about my future at that time with Al and I talked about it. And as I said, the 100 games was intriguing at the time. But it's not there right now.
Tom, have the last two seasons been better overall? Do you think that would have made a difference in your staying?
I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, if we were, you know, in the hunt, we wouldn't be here right now because I'd be out there coaching someplace. But sometimes, you know, you have to take the good with the bad. We've had some great years. We will continue to have great years. I can't really say whether those seasons were responsible.
I'd like to make a point to that question. I don't think in modern day football any head coach should coach more than 10 years. Now, I can't speak for anyone else around America. I can't speak for the head coaches all over this country, but in professional football, I think there's a period of about 6 to 8 years in which an individual should be a head coach. And I think it's great in professional football if an organization has their people.
The book of the Los Angeles Raiders. Head coach Tom Flores has called it quits, and the search is on to find a successor, possibly the first black head coach in the NFL.
Tom Flores has a special place in the hearts of the Raider organization, and especially his teammates and the players he coached who wore and wear the famed silver and black.
everybody, and welcome to Sports Center. I'm Larry Burnett here along with Kerry Ross. And Kerry, leave it to Al Davis to kind of upstage the Super Bowl, but we're going to have a changing of the guard once again with the L.A. Raiders.
That's for sure. You have to wonder, is there a Super Bowl with all that's happened today going on? First of all, as Jim Gray reported last night on Sports Center, Los Angeles Raiders coach Tom Flores announced his retirement. At 50 years old, Flores has spent 23 years with the Raiders organization, 9 years as head coach of L.A. The Raiders have struggled the past 2 seasons, not making the AFC playoffs both of those years. However, Flores' accomplishments are still impressive. Taking a look at Flores' record, there you see the stats in 9 regular seasons, 83 wins, 53 losses, a 61% winning mark in the postseason. Very impressive, 8-3. And during that time, Flores led his team to 2 Super Bowl titles, winning Super Bowls 15 and 18, 2 AFC championships, and 3 AFC Western Division titles. And here's what Flores had to say today about his retirement.
I think the timing is right for me to go about